We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Good afternoon and welcome to the weekday edition of Free Association Radio. This is the midpoint of the week. And on Wednesdays, we get into astrology, prediction, synchronicity, all the interesting things that align us, hopefully, to being able to better understand our place in the universe, where we came from, and where we're headed. And occasionally we bring guests on to the show. Most of the time it's other astrologers, or we'll have a psychic, or perhaps a numerologist. But today we're going to bring on a different kind of guest. And what we're going to try to do today is we're going to try to get in touch with the energy behind the stars themselves. We're talking about scalar energy. And scalar energy was actually rediscovered by Nikola Tesla at the early part of this century, back in the 1900s. And it's an interesting story about the development of scalar energy, how it was discovered, and how it was left off of the electromagnetic scale as a part of a, I wouldn't call it a conspiracy, but it was certainly a way for somebody by the name of Hertz to determine how the electromagnetic frequency or electromagnetic scale would carry his name and his findings and leave scalar energy off of the storyline. So we're going to get into that today. We're going to find out what scalar energy is about and how it might actually be able to influence your health in a positive fashion. And to do that, I'm going to bring on a guest here in a minute or two. His name is Thomas Paladino, and he has a website called selfhealgo.com. And Tom came to me through a friend of the show. Many of you know Dave, who has been on the show with me. And Dave has been working with Tom for a few weeks now with this system. And he urged me to get in touch with Tom, so I did. And Tom and I are doing our own little experiment. We'll talk about that during the interview. So I've always been interested in alternative healing modalities, and I think that we have not only do we have an inherent right to explore these things, but in the times that we're living in, it's essential that we do, because we're dealing with so many vectors in our environment that impact our health, and we all know what they are. It's the rogues gallery. GMOs, free radicals, fluoride, the crap from chemtrails. It's the perp walk. And so how do we stay healthy? That's really the big question. And many of us are scrambling to figure out how to do that. We're diagnosing ourselves. We're using naturopathic, homeopathic, anything that allows us to get rid of crap from our bodies and allow our bodies to do what they do naturally, which are self-regulate and heal. When the body is not being impacted and not being drilled by a lot of these outside factors, the body can take care of itself quite nicely. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about scalar energy. We're going to find out what it is and how it works for the body. Just a quick housekeeping note, just to let you know, we're going to have Andi Timiner, Director of DIG, and We Live in Public. She'll be on Friday, along with a man called Clay. You don't want to miss that show. And also, I've had horoscopes up on the site now for a few days. If you haven't checked those out, please go do so. Okay? That's at robertphoenix.com. All right. Housekeeping out of the way. Let's bring on Thomas Paladino, and we're going to find out all about scalar energy in the next hour. And towards the end of our talk, you're going to be able to call in if you have any questions for Tom. You want to find out more about scalar energy or how this thing actually works. You'll be able to talk to him directly. So let's waste no more time and bring on the man of the moment, Tom Paladino.
Good afternoon, Robert. Tom Paladino.
Hey, how are you, Tom?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, thanks for joining us here on our Wednesday 2-hour chat and exploration of astrology and other things. So I wanted to ask you, Tom, and by the way, let me just clear this up with the listeners. Anybody that's waiting on hold for a reading, we're going to do that in the second hour, okay? So you can either drop off, or if you're listening via phone, a lot of you do, I know that, hang in there. But in hour number 2, we'll do the readings, okay? First hour, scalar. Second hour, the stars. Okay, thanks, Tom. So I just wanted to start this off by asking you, basic question. Who are you, and how did you get into scalar energy, and where did you make this crossover from exploring scalar energy to exploring its potential as a healing energy in our lives?
Sure, good, sure, by all means. I've always known that there was a second energy in the universe, and men like Nikola Tesla inspired me. Back in the 90s, I studied Tesla's work, and I realized that Nikola Tesla was onto another entirely different form of energy, something that is not of the electromagnetic spectrum. And with that, I was really emboldened by his research and by his subsequent experimentation that this second energy of the universe did indeed exist. This is scalar energy. Scalar energy is produced by the stars of the universe. Our sun and our solar system and the stars of the universe produce scalar energy. It permeates the universe. And there have been a few great scientists, Nikola Tesla again is one of them, who've really really understood this and spent so much time and effort trying to promulgate this new energy, this unrecognized energy, and all of its benefits to mankind. Well, pursuant to that, I have tried to take up from Tesla's work, and today, presently, I am utilizing scalar energy in order to disassemble and assemble physical matter. Scalar energy is a fundamental force in nature, and it affords me the ability to assemble and disassemble matter. Now, in application, I've developed a technique to assemble essential nutrients, such as vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. And secondly, I've developed a technique to disassemble foreign agents, such as infection, bacteria, fungi, protozoan. And I'm doing this with this marvel of energy, this fundament that I've discovered is scalar energy is responsible for the physical geometry of the universe. And if you can control it, you can essentially control the physical universe.
Well, that's a pretty powerful statement. In the right hands, obviously, we have the ability to do a lot of things that could be quite beneficial. In the wrong hands, it could be fairly detrimental for the structure of the universe. I wanted to ask you, Tom, just the basic, fundamental kind of practical mechanics of scalar. Based on what I've read, it seems to me, and again, I just have a very rudimentary knowledge of this, but it seems to me that there is a kind of a fusion between the electrical and the magnetic frequencies, and when you interpenetrate the two, there's a ripple effect and there's a field that occurs as you begin to fuse electricity and magnetism. Is this how scalar energy was discovered, and is this how it works?
Well, let's go back to Nikola Tesla. Tesla was working with AC, principally, alternating current of the electromagnetic spectrum. And Tesla recognized that many times when a surge of electricity, whether it's AC or DC, of the electromagnetic spectrum was observed, that there would be a release of a second type of energy, that he finally came to the conclusion this was scalar energy. So scalar energy, according to Tesla, and I would concur, is not really the flow of electrons. Scalar energy is different. Scalar energy is a double helix. And to speak in technical terms, it's really a phase-conjugated wave. It's a standing wave. And this standing wave observes the golden mean ratio. And by that, I'll allude to the golden mean ratio as really the fundament of creation, of physical creation. Now, scalar energy is not electricity, it's not magnetism. It is possible, though, that you can convert electricity into scalar energy and vice versa. But it has to be known, scalar energy is entirely different. Mm-hmm. One of the striking differences is scalar energy does not experience entropy. It does not weaken over distance, whereas electricity, anything of the electromagnetic spectrum, would weaken over distance.
Mm-hmm. What does scalar have to do with 0 point? Are they the same thing?
That they are synonymous. I believe those terms are used synonymously.
Okay, all right. So we have this interesting field of untapped potential energy, and it's related to the golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence. So we're talking about something very fundamental to life itself, because the golden mean shows up just about everywhere in nature.
Exactly.
So it seems to me that this holds incredibly great potential in terms of being able to kind of realign us with perhaps what we call our original blueprint. How did you discover the crossover between scalar energy and what you were trying to do, or what you're currently doing with healing?
Sure. I began to experiment with scalar energy in the 90s, and I had marginal success. And then I came upon a technique in which I was able to break apart or disassemble pathogens. And what I incorporated was an actual magnified photograph of a pathogen, a germ. And I would use a photograph in conjunction with a scalar energy instrument. Now, that photograph served as the paradigm, as the informational input. And in conjunction with a scalar instrument, I was able to project that essence and break apart that germ by using a photograph.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is very important because it takes the guesswork out of energy. And prior to that, I don't think anybody had ever tried to address a type of pathogenic disassembling according to this methodology.
Right.
So, emboldened by that, I developed a technique in which I am now able, with scalar energy, using a magnified photograph of either a bacterium, a fungus, or a protozoan, I am able to unbind, to disassemble that pathogen instantaneously with a scalar energy instrument.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the immediate application. After studying this for 25 years, my immediate application is in reference to pathogenic cleansing, to be able to eradicate germs.
Mm-hmm. So you discovered this. You said, okay, let's try this. This might have some traction. We might be able to break this down. That's good in theory. When did you put it into practice? Did you serve as your own guinea pig initially?
I served as my own guinea pig initially. I had friends and family that I would treat likewise. Mm-hmm. And I had incredible success. Friends would come to me and they would say, look, I have strep throat. Well, I would simply take a photograph of streptococcus, project that energy at a person, my friend, and within a couple hours, my friend no longer had strep throat. I did it upon myself. And within this closed circle, we were the immediate beneficiaries of this type of treatment.
Interesting.
Never any adverse side effects, because you're telling scalar energy to pinpoint a problem, which is a germ, a pathogen. Mm-hmm. And that's all it does. So you essentially have mastery over the physical universe with this instrument, with this type of treatment. And the mastery immediately, the immediate consideration is I am unbinding, I am disassembling germs, pathogens. So with that good success, I've extended it now, and I've started a website. I'm trying to introduce this process, this modality to the world.
Right. Well, what's really interesting is I was looking around for some more information on scalar energy, and this is why I think you're onto something, because I found the reverse of scalar, a reverse example of using scalar energy to actually induce disease. So what you've done is you've somehow harnessed this so that you can reverse that or do something entirely different than some of the other perhaps more negative or darker examples of scalar energy that are out there. How many pathogens have you been able to isolate?
I have a collection. I have a library, if you will, of magnified photographs. I have over 5,000 photographs of pathogens. Mm-hmm. And with that collection, whatever I have within my library, I would say I'm able, with that photograph and with my instrument, I am able to unbind, to break apart those specific germs. Now, I've had great success with any type of staph infection, strep infection, candida albicans, all types of fungus and protozoal infections. And it's all done, again, to underscore the matter, by way of light. There's no human interpretation on my part. I'm working with a light instrument, and I'm working with a media, which is light, a photograph of a germ, and I simply I broadcast that energy into a person. So if you keep it on this level of light, which is fundamental, then you should have good success. There's really, again, no human interpretation, hence there's no room for human error on my part.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right, because, I mean, Heisenberg basically figured out that, that we're all engaged in our own experience and experiment in life, whatever that is, through our participation and observation of it. But you try to get as far away as possible, and it sounds like that's what you've done. What strikes me as fascinating about this, Tom, is that if you're dealing with an image of a pathogen, and you're dealing with breaking that image down using this scalar energy, it seems to me that we're kind of entering into a relationship with a holographic relationship with reality.
Yes, I would concur, Robert. I would concur. I would say that the universe is one gigantic hologram, and that everything is connected, and that I would go further and say that scalar energy is the means of communication. I would say that scalar energy connects all physical objects in the universe. And if I am able to take let's say a photograph of, say, Streptococcus, and project that energy across the country and treat somebody, then I would say, yes, we live in a holographic paradigm, and that is really what serves this experimentation and this type of treatment. It's an interconnected universe, and I believe scalar energy is the means in which it is interconnected.
Right. So how long have you been up and running and actually working with people outside of friends and family?
I started the website a year ago, and it's been a work in progress. The website, my research and treatment, these are long days and long nights of hard work. Finally, I think all the pieces of the puzzle are now in place, and I have a steady treatment process. I have a number of people who come to me on a regular basis asking to be treated, and I am having good success in the past, say, 5 to 6 months, broadening out my reach beyond that of friends and family.
So what kind of feedback have you received from people that you've been working with over the past year?
Sure. One comes to mind, that a woman that I treated for irritable bowel syndrome just 2 weeks ago. She had a great deal of inflammation, great deal of discomfort. She's had this for years. After 2 days of treatment with the scalar energy, her condition significantly improved. A week thereafter, she no longer had any symptom of IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. Today, 2 weeks thereafter, she's back to normal. She feels energized, no more infection whatsoever. She's written me a glowing testimonial only 2 weeks after the initial treatment. Something, a malady, a disease that afflicted her for years.
Interesting. So that's one example. Does it generally occur that quickly, 2 weeks, or are there? I mean, if you're breaking things down immediately with scalar energy, should it happen immediately, or is 2 weeks too long? I mean, how subjective is time in terms of treating people with this? You went away. Where'd he go? All right, so Tom has fallen off the call, and we're going to see if we can get him back on here in just a second. I am talking with Thomas Paladino, who is the practitioner of selfhealgo.com, which is his website where he is working with people and using scalar energy as a means to break down pathogens and disease, and also accelerate the body's ability to assimilate vitamins and minerals, which we're going to talk about with Thomas in a second. But let's bring him back on. He's back on the call here. Hey, Tom.
Okay, Robert.
So my question was, I don't know if you heard it, but it was about time, because if you're working with the scalar energy and it immediately breaks down the pattern of the virus or the germ or the pathogen, in my mind, shouldn't that happen instantaneously? Why 2 weeks? Does it take longer? For some people, is it sooner? What's your relationship with time as it impacts healing through this modality?
Very well. Thank you. You're correct. My experience is that scalar energy will instantaneously disassemble a pathogen. Now, the healing takes place immediately. However, there are circumstances that affect the healing curve as to how long this would take some people to rehabilitate. The example that I gave with a woman with irritable bowel syndrome, her recovery was within a week and a half. Most people will experience a renewed sense of energy within the first month of a treatment. Now, I have to use this caveat. Many times people will come to me and they'll say, treat me for pathogens, for germs, and I'll do so. But there is perhaps another problem, another underlying problem that's not being diagnosed properly. And that has to take serious consideration. And I do not use this as a diagnostic tool. I simply use this as a means to disassemble germs, and then I ask those who've received the treatment to seek proper medical attention and perhaps diagnostic testing in order to ascertain, indeed, are they free of that pathogen.
Mm-hmm. Right. So the curve and the timing, it seems quite subjective. It feels to me like some people might experience it faster, perhaps others not so fast. Is this because there may be more of a commonly held or an entrenched belief system around something, or where does that come into play?
I would think that's part of it. I would think that those who are more positive about their health and more proactive, I've noticed that people of such ilk will respond quicker and in a more favorable fashion. Mm-hmm. We have a broad spectrum. Some people have perhaps bad habits, poor eating habits, or perhaps they smoke or drink too much. That will impair the recovery process. Mm-hmm. I've treated some people, and they felt that indeed the swelling, the inflammation due to germs, pathogens, quickly abated. But nevertheless, there's another problem. Perhaps there's another medical condition that stands in the way of full recovery.
Right.
Or poor nutrition, or perhaps there's a pending surgery that somebody would have to have. And again, Robert, I don't claim that this is a panacea for everything, mm-hmm. by no means.
Right. Well, one of the things that you have also worked out, according to the material you sent me, was that not only does the scalar energy break down the pathogen, but you've also figured out a way where the uptake of vitamins and minerals can be facilitated and accelerated through this. Is that true?
That is true. That's accurate. Scalar energy has two modalities that you can work with it. When I disassemble a germ, I work with scalar energy in the reverse phase, the out-of-phase angle. A reverse phase will set the informational input for something to unbind. Now, converse to that, I also use scalar energy to assemble, to bring together nutrients. And I use the in-phase angle of scalar energy to effectuate that. And I've developed a technique using in-phase scalar energy to assemble vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, phytochemicals, etc. inside the body. So I have a technique whereby I can assemble all of the essential nutrients that the body needs by way of energy. You don't need to take a supplement. I am sending energy, instructive energy into the body. And I am instructing the human body to actually form the molecular composition, to form the geometry of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, phytochemicals. Now, I use this process on many people. I'll speak for myself. I've never felt more alive, more energized in my entire life. My complexion is very clear. My skin is very soft and supple. I attribute all of this to the fact that every day I am assembling nutrients inside my body. It's the perfect delivery system because you don't have to ingest a supplement and it has to be distributed throughout the body. To the contrary, scalar energy sends that information to every square inch of your body. So what am I saying? Every cell in the human body then starts to assemble, starts to construct vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, phytochemicals.
Interesting.
So the body becomes a factory, if you will, for essential nutrients.
Interesting stuff. One of the things that I've been reading about with scalar as well, I kind of alluded to this earlier in our conversation, is the shadow side of scalar energy. Tom Bearden, who I'm sure you're familiar with,
Yes.
He's actually explored let's just say it's a much more broader application of scalar energy, and he actually believed that the Russians had scalar weapons and that there had been work on people in prisons in Utah using scalar energy to impact their physiognomy, their mental states, emotional states, and so on. And so what we're dealing with here is an incredibly powerful energy, and it feels to me like that there should be a particular type of consciousness or evolved consciousness that can play with this sort of energy. And I guess what I'm getting at here, Tom, is your own personal spiritual development. Because if you don't have really powerful spiritual grounding with this type of energy, it could be a real Pandora's box. So I guess my question to you is kind of where are you on that spectrum of your own personal development? Because people are giving you pictures of themselves and they're trusting you with this energy to do something that's really beneficial to them. So kind of, where are you in terms of your consciousness with this, and how much responsibility do you really feel like you have in all of this?
Thank you. This is a grave responsibility. This is a very serious matter. Okay. First and foremost, I'm a Christian, and I approach my work, my research as a Christian. I believe that we should do no harm. I use scalar energy only for the good. It's a tool. You're absolutely right, correct, Robert. A tool can be used either for good or bad. You can buy a hammer, and you could use that hammer to build a house, or you could use that hammer to hit somebody. And that's true with any tool, and the same with scalar energy. This is a very serious matter. I am working with an instrument, and it's not a toy by any means. I am the only one who uses this instrument. I don't delegate this to anybody else. When I use this, I surround myself. I pray before I use this instrument. The treatment process is standardized. It's the same every time. I don't venture out of those guidelines. And after treatment, I simply shut off the instrument. You're right, and thank you for bringing that out. This is a fundamental force in nature. And when you have that type of mastery, that type of control, it can be used for either good or evil.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. And I picked that up with your website, which is why I wanted to ask you a question,
Sure.
or ask you that question. One other question I wanted to ask you, this kind of goes back to assimilation, breaking down of pathogens and healing. Do people often experience detox symptoms when they're going through this?
Great question. No, they don't experience the typical detox, and this is why. For instance, when you have an antibiotic that's destroying a germ, that's a chemical process. And that process is different from what I'm doing, which is a light process. Now, I contend that when I treat a germ, a pathogen, that germ is reduced into elements. For instance, if I were to treat Candida albicans, a common fungus, I would disassemble that germ, and it would immediately transmute into elements such as carbon, oxygen, phosphorus, nitrogen, etc. Mm-hmm. So this is not per se a die-off. Rather, when you're working at this fundamental level, at this quantum level, the pathogen ceases to exist. Now, that's the overarching consideration when you're treating out a germ. If the germ is dying, then there will be die-off. Mm-hmm. But if I actually take a germ and if I disassemble that at the quantum level, at the subatomic level, that germ no longer exists. It ceases to exist. Hence, the die-off is not present.
Well, that would make sense, obviously. So people that you've worked with, they have not said that they've experienced any kind of detox symptoms. They usually go from experiencing something to experiencing something different. Is that really kind of the sequence?
Correct. I've not had anybody who's ever come back to me and said there is a serious die-off that I'm experiencing because I've taken that germ, the pathogen, right, and I've reduced it into elements that the body can use. Mm-hmm. If my theory is correct and if the transmutation process does indeed take place, a germ is being reduced to carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen that the body uses as elements for sustenance, for repair and reproduction.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's the great question. Where does it go?
I want to introduce this, Robert, to the world. I went public with this, with my website, to try and get people interested. Now, presently I'm a one-man show. Right. That's not what I want. Mm-hmm. I want serious-minded people to come forward. Mm-hmm. Let's do some testing. Let's, first of all, see if my claims are really true and valid. And if they are, then this opens up an entirely new universe of possibilities for the human race. Mm-hmm. What I am saying is this. My mastery, my control over pathogens can logically be extended to the universe. Mm-hmm. If I am getting rid of an unwanted physical form in the human body, then eventually we can unbind, disassemble unwanted physical forms elsewhere, such as radioactive waste, such as tumors, such as pollutants, such as chemical pollutants in streams and oceans. So this really opens and it begs the question, why hasn't more research been done?
Well, I'm assuming that plenty of research has been done, but it hasn't been done in the private sector or in the hands of sort of the quote-unquote common man, because based on what I've read, there's been tons of research, but it's all been at a pretty high level behind closed doors.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Well, let's do this. First of all, let's tell people what we're doing. I'm actually one of your guinea pigs, and I'm going to be working with your scalar technology here for the next few weeks. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring you back on the show, and I'm going to talk about how I'm feeling. Now I've got I'm not in terrible shape. I got a few ticks with me, and I know what they are. So we're gonna road test them in about 3 weeks. We'll bring you back on. We're gonna find out, how, if at all, this has impacted me, and so we'll go from there with that. But I also want to open up the phone lines and invite callers to come on in, and if you have any questions for Tom, to go ahead and ask them. And I think somebody here on the 312 line might actually have a call or a question for you. Let's find out.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, you're on the air. Hello? Hello? Okay, they're on hold. Let's see if we put it back on hold there. Let's go to the 518 area code. Hi, you're on the air. Do you have a question for Tom? Hello?
Hello. Yes, I pressed the button by mistake.
Do you have a question for Tom?
No, I'm still listening.
You're just listening. Okay, all right.
I came in late, so I missed part of, a lot of it. I just came on like the last 10 minutes, so yeah.
Okay.
And I hit the button by mistake.
Listen to the front end of the interview because there's a lot of really good information. All right, we'll put you back. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Let's go to the 202 area code. Yeah, hi. You're on the air. Do you have any questions for Tom?
Hi. Actually, I've never listened before. Is this for readings or?
Oh, yeah, that's the second part of the show. So I'll put you back on hold, and then
okay.
I'll tell you who probably have a pretty good question. It's Sandra. Let's bring Sandra on and see if she has a question for you. Let's hold on a second here. Too much feedback. All right, one more. Let's try one more line. Yeah, hey, you're on the air. Do you have a question for Tom? No. All right. So I guess everybody knows what they need to know about scalar energy, Tom.
God bless. They're experts.
Yeah,
we did a thorough job, Robert.
Well, I think most of the time people are here on Wednesdays to hear me rap about astrology, and so having you on as a guest probably threw their world off a little bit. But that's okay. That's not a problem. But let me put out the number again: 347-308-8995. 347-308-8995. If you have a question for Tom about scalar energy, about his program, if you want to experience his program, explore what he's doing, you can call in and ask him directly. So let's talk a little bit about your website, selfhealgo.com. That's where people can go and find out more about what you're doing.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
And you have, do you have a series or a sequence of treatments that people can check into and use?
Yes, I offer a 30-day program. Those who sign up will be treated for the duration of 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And those treatments, again, really revolve around the point to disassemble, to break apart pathogens, and to, secondly, refortify the body with the essential nutrients that they need, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And most people, the majority of people that I treat, have expressed that after the 30-day treatment period, they feel energized, they feel better, their health has improved. Now, again, this is not the panacea.
Right.
After 30 days, you're not going to become a star athlete. We still have our limitations, but nevertheless, their general well-being usually improves after a 30-day treatment session.
Okay. All right. What about pets? Have you done any work with pets?
Yes, by all means. And sometimes pets are better test subjects than people. Pets, first of all, it's a wonderful to treat a dog or a cat. There is no placebo effect. A dog or cat does not know it's being treated. Most of the pets that I treat have some type pathogenic infection. After 30 days of treating a dog or a cat or a horse or a goat, that animal has a renewed sense of health. I have removed germs from that animal. The animal is healthier, obviously. The production, if it's a livestock consideration, that their production, whether it's milk production, etc., usually increases, and the animal is healthier, more energized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And with an animal, it would be pretty obvious, right? They're either not well or well, you know.
Exactly.
Pretty clear. Okay.
Last month, a woman gave me a photograph of her macaw, and she told me that after 2 to 3 weeks, the bird had responded very favorably and had more energy than what the bird ever experienced in years' time. So that's an indication, again, that it works with animals, in this case a bird, and the response was stellar. It was a stellar response just after 2 weeks of treatment.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's. I think we might have one call here. Let's go to the 250 area code and see if they have a question for you. Hello there.
Hi, Robert. It's Linda calling from Canada.
Well, hey, Linda. You're a perfect person to bring on and ask Tom a question.
Yeah, I work with this energy with my quantum zeroid consciousness interface, which is basically a computer that acts like a crystal. But I wanted to ask Tom to talk a bit about scalar energy on a larger scale, like that it's used in a negative way by HARP, and also how we can use it on a larger scale against chemtrails. And just to mention also, if there's people in the chat room saying that they don't really understand how it works.
Okay, so did you get that, Tom? We're talking big picture stuff. How can we use it to protect ourselves against a scalar attack that's really being launched on us? And then the other is to be a little more specific about how the actual scalar energy is tapped into, perhaps, and then is used for, in your case, healing.
Okay. First of all, I'm not an expert into as far as geopolitics is concerned. Mm-hmm. Now, with that, let's posture and let's theorize that governments of the world have developed scalar energy instruments. Mm-hmm. We've seen some weather anomalies that really beg the question, are these weather phenomena being induced by scalar instruments, by HARP, and by other types of scalar instruments? It's entirely possible. I cannot vouch for that, though, Robert. Is it possible? Yes. Do I have evidence? No.
Right.
Next, can scalar energy be used as a weapon? Yes, it can. Do I have evidence of that? No. And if there was weaponry out there, I would say it would be rather closed-mouthed by any government to even mention this. This really introduces an entirely new realm of weaponry. That's out of my bag. I don't get involved in weapons. I'm a Christian. I don't endorse that type of warfare.
Yeah.
Chemtrails. Are chemtrails real? Yes. The powers that be, whoever they are, for some reason, are using planes to pollute not only our atmosphere, but people. Mm-hmm. What's the end game? What's the objective here? Well, it's obviously nefarious. Mm-hmm. Why is this happening? There's a number of theories out there. One of my considerations is this is obviously an intentional act. It's evil, and it's probably being done to reduce the world population.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to call a spade here.
Right.
In reference to what I am doing, my scalar instrument I believe, captures or produces a double helix standing columnar wave. I believe I have achieved the ability to produce scalar energy.
Right.
And with that, I now have the ability to either assemble or disassemble matter.
Right.
That's my immediate consideration. I would like to logically extend this to be able to use scalar energy to use it as a power source. Scalar energy offers to the world a relatively inexpensive, safe, and clean source of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And if this was ever to be perfected, it would open up the door, the opportunity for a power source that was superior to what we have today, far superior.
Yep, I agree. And again, for the lay person, the way that you enter into the scalar field, this is my interpretation of it, is that there is an anomaly or a flux that you're able to isolate. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so why don't we leave that at that? Because I think some of this is probably proprietary. That's my sense. So let's leave that there, Tom. And what I want to do is I want to bring you back on in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then you and I are going to have another chat. And then I'll tell you how I'm feeling, and we'll go from there. And we've already kind of agreed on sort of the ground rules for that and everything. But I have a good feeling about this, and I'm looking forward to bringing you back on and having you share more about. And I'm sure that even over time, whether it's 4 weeks or 4 months, that you're learning more, and then you're developing this out even more as well.
You're absolutely right. Every day is a learning experience.
Okay.
Robert, and you have to approach this very humbly. And I want to thank you for your time and the listening audience. Again, let me accentuate. This eventually has to become a team effort.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be a groundswell of support. Okay?
Right.
Otherwise, there's only so much I can do as one person.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Okay. Well, I'll give you I'll contact you offline after the show. We'll talk about a few more things, but I really want to thank you for coming on, Tom. It's been a pleasure to have you and to learn more about this fascinating technology and its really potentially positive applications as it relates to healing. So best of luck, and then we'll catch up with you down the line in public, okay?
Thank you so much, Robert, for your time.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
That's Tom Paladino, scalar energy innovator and healer, and you can find out more about his technology and his healing sessions over at selfhealgo.com. Very nice guy. He's very accessible. He'll talk to you. You're talking to the person that is building the technology, running the program, and booking all of the sessions all in one. So this is really a homegrown roots project that Tom is involved in, and it's good to be able to connect with people like this at this phase of their development. And hopefully Tom will get some support and allow him to grow this out and develop the technology for greater applications. And hopefully he won't get hassled by the powers that be, because we know how these things go when we have someone who is ahead of the curve, who is innovative, who's using cutting-edge technologies, whether it's Wilhelm Reich or whether it's Nikola Tesla. These people wind up being really harassed because they're offering us solutions outside of the allopathic, disease-driven, and trauma-based paradigm. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play some music, and when I come back, we're going to do astrology. So for everyone that's been patiently waiting on hold to have some astrological insight brought to you, your patience will be rewarded. shortly. So what do I want to play here? Let's see. I need to upload some more music. That would be quite helpful, wouldn't it? Hey, how about this? This is another track from Man Called Clay. He'll be on Friday, leading into On the Timoner, and this is One Splendid Buzz. It's 5 minutes and 39 seconds. Hang in there. You'll like it. Trust me. And when I come back, we'll be jumping into astrology. We got a new moon in Aries, a major stellium in Aries, and things are heating up on the global theater. We'll talk a little bit about that on the back end of One Splendid Buzz by a man called Clay. That was Man Called Clay, and the name of that wonderful piece of music was, or is, One Splendid Buzz. And you'll be able to hear a little bit more of his music on Friday when we finally have him on the show as the lead-in for Andy Timiner, the director of Dig and We Live in Public, and also the founder of A Total Disruption, a crowdfunding website that has really helped her and other people. So she's just launching that this week. We'll talk more about A Total Disruption as part of the interview as well. Okay, so as advertised, it's me now. It's me and you. It's me and you and the stars. It's interesting. I was just I found this fascinating website that has a great deal of information on scalar technology and scalar energy. It's out of Australia, and one of the things that they mentioned on this website is that HAARP has apparently punched a 360 by 30 mile wide hole in the ionosphere. So 360 by 30, and I thought about it, it's like, well, where do we know those numbers from? Well, 360 is the number of degrees in the zodiac. Right? The wheel is 360 degrees, and 30 is 30 degrees for each sign. So somebody at HAARP apparently likes astrology, or maybe there might be something more esoteric related to those dimensions as it relates to astrology and interdimensional access to this planet. So I just wanted to offer up that little interesting bit of information. The sun is in Aries, moon is also in Aries. It's just past the sun. It is new. We are in a new moon with Venus also in Aries and Mars in Aries, and they're all bunched up from 21 to 25 degrees. Venus at 24, Mars at 22, moon at 25, sun at 21. That's a lot of Aries energy out there, people. That's a lot of martial energy, and we're saber rattling with North Korea, and we're standing down planes. A third of the Air Force, due to budget constraints, has been asked to be grounded, has been told to be grounded. So these are very interesting times, and with all this energy, all this martial Aries energy with Uranus and Aries and well in the air, things could get a little unstable. Tempers are short, and the spirit of the warrior is in the air. So we have a responsibility to counteract or to balance all that Aries energy. Why? Because the key to astrology is to enter into the opposition, which in this case would be Libra. So knowing this and being conscious of it, it's about being balanced, being fair, being synergistic, and being diplomatic, infusing these two energies together to have a holistic expression. So while there are people that might want to facilitate war at a global level, what we want to do is facilitate peace at a local level. So let it be in your hearts today and with everyone you interact with. I had an interesting experience yesterday. I was here in Austin. I got to hang out just on the apex of the new moon with Freeman Fly. If you don't know who Freeman is, check him out. Freeman and I and his gal Jamie and a few other people hung out for about 3 hours, just absolutely pinballing around the conspiratorial galaxy. And Freeman has a new book out. It's called Weird Stuff. And he actually crowdsourced that, just like how Andy has crowdsourced some of her projects as well. He crowdsourced that, and he's got copies available. If you go to his website, go to Freeman TV, you'll be able to order copies of Weird Stuff. It's print on demand. I saw the book yesterday. It's phenomenal. It is really kind of a summation of a lot of Freeman's work and some new stuff as well. Of course, he's fusing the sacred and the profane esoteric symbolism, Disney, you name it. And hopefully they'll have Freeman on in the next couple of weeks, and we can talk more about weird stuff and what else is going on out there. All right, so let's jump into the stars. Let's start right off with the 202 area code. Let's find out. We talked to them earlier. We didn't know who they are or why they're calling. I believe they're calling from Washington, D.C. or District of Columbia, as it's known. So let's bring them on and let's get into some astrology. Hello.
Hi. Hello. How are you?
I'm good. Hi. What's your name?
My name is Camilla.
Hi, Camilla. So this is your first time
Mhm.
listening to the show. What do you think so far?
So far, it's very informative. Definitely
Okay.
gonna listen again for sure.
Okay.
Interesting stuff.
Somebody's trying to call me. 0 points. If you're trying to call me, you need to call into the show. I can't take your call. Good. All right. Well, let's do this. Let's find out what you want to know or understand. And oh, by the way, today is the birthday of Joan Quigley. Joan Quigley was the Reagan's astrologer. I've actually written about Joan on my site, a couple of posts. So I just wanted to throw that out there. All right. So what do you want?
Oh, very cool.
What do you want to talk about? Because you're in Washington, D.C., right? That's a 202 area code?
Yeah, I'm actually in New York, but I used to live in D.C. I would just like to find out what the heck. I'm going through a lot of changes right now, and I wanted to know specifically about work and love, but I guess if you look at my chart and see something that stands out, I'd be open to that as well.
So you want to know about work? Is that it?
Mhm.
Okay, let's do this. Let's go in here. Let's bang this, and let's put you.
Work and love, or anything that you see that stands out. You know.
Ah, yes, work and
You're
love.
expert
What would we be without work and love?
We'd be me. No.
That's funny. All right, what is your birthday?
It's 3/5/80, 12:30 a.m.
3/5/80. So the 5th of March.
At 12:30 a.m.
All right.
in Philadelphia.
1980, 12:30 a.m. in the city of brotherly love. 12:30. Okay, let's go there and move this around. Okay, so it would be Philadelphia. Pennsylvania. There we go. All right. Bada bing. All right. So I'm looking at you. Do you know anything about your chart at all?
I do. I know some things. I know my rising, my sun and moon, and I know about my Pluto. I definitely know about that and my moon.
Yes, they're very close.
Mhm.
Pluto, moon in your chart. So you're a Sag rising, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Sag rising, Sun Pisces, Pluto moon conjunction, very tight conjunction in the sign of Libra. In the 11th house, Pluto moon conjunction, opposite Venus in your chart. Relationships are very difficult for you. I'm sorry to say that.
I'm glad to get confirmation.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, so...
What made you see that? The
well,
Venus
first of all, the opposition. Anytime you get into Venus-Moon opposition, especially with Pluto, the first thing that comes to mind is power struggle. There's power struggle in relationships. Now, the cool thing is you've got Venus in the 5th house, and it's a nice place for Venus. You know, Venus plays nicely in the 5th house. It's the house of Leo. Venus likes to hang out there. Venus in the 5th house is romantic. And you've got it in Aries, which is interesting because Venus in Aries is quite aggressive. And the challenge with it's all nice. It's very fiery. It's very passionate. You've got a really kind of hot Venus Mars trine, even though it's out of sign. It's an out of sign trine, but still it's a hot trine. And so you're a passionate person. Passion is not your problem at all. But the challenge for you is maybe at times too much passion and getting involved with people. I wouldn't say too quickly or prematurely, but getting involved with people things happening really, really, really quickly, and then all of a sudden having to deal with the reality of how quickly things are happening. And that's when your Pluto moon kicks in, because they're in the 11th house, and that's the house of Aquarius. And it's an air house, and it's much more objective. So there would be a pulling back and an objectification of the relationship very quickly if you felt like you were in too deep or things were getting out of control. Because Pluto, even though Pluto moon in Libra is cardinal, again, it's about starting things up. The energy is quite fixed because Pluto rules Scorpio. So we're dealing with a bit of a fixed energy here. So what you've got cardinal, you've got a fair amount of cardinal energy in your chart with these two aspects. But so the key around all of this, really, I'm not sure how you temper this kind of intensity with Venus and Aries trining Mars in the 9th house. I think what you would have to do here, in order for you to experience a meaningful relationship, is, and maybe just this sounds really, trite, but I think trust is a big deal. And
it's very difficult for me.
Yeah, and so I think taking time, even though you've got this, because you're also the type of person that, because you're passionate, you would also spark other people's passion as well, and that's when you get chemistry, and chemistry is not bad, it's not always entirely good. You can have chemistry with somebody and it can go wrong. So, but I think trust for you is really the kind of the big deal. It's the litmus, and the more that you can hang out with somebody, if we flip the opposition around, okay. So let's say you get into a passionate connection, and then all of a sudden you're in over your head, and you're like, I got to step back. Happening.
Yeah, that's what always happens. It's usually like I see the person I start seeing like, oh no, this is all wrong.
Right, and then it's like third date, the guy is asking to marry you or whatever, right? So what you would need to do is you need to flip that around and start at the 11th house instead of the 5th house, which is where Venus is. So you're in the 11th house with Moon Pluto, and that's the 11th house is the house of friends. So a lot of people say, it's really hard to go from having a friendship with somebody to having this, kind of, Western dominated romantic fantasy, because the two seem to be diametrically opposed, But in your case, I would say that would be the reverse. I would hang out with somebody much longer. I would prolong the courtship phase as much as I could in your case with Moon Pluto, because it'll do two things. One is it will help you build trust.
Right.
That's number one. Number two, once you decide to take the energy and move it into a relationship, down into Venus, down into the 5th house, well, then you've really got something. And you're going to have a really passionate connection. And it's because you've spent all this time. It's funny. I'm having. Do you ever watch that show, Louis?
Louis, I have seen an episode, with the father and
Louis C.K. So there's this one episode. Pardon me if this gets a little vulgar, but he gets on this talk show with this woman who's a Christian, and she is anti-masturbation. And he's the pro masturbation guy, right? And she's asking him why he does it. He says, well, it's normal. It helps me relax, blah, 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 blah. And she says, well, why don't you not do it? Because then you're saving yourself for, God's special match for you and all these things. And I couldn't help but flash on that show while I was looking at your chart here, because I think in some ways there is something connected to that. And that's the Moon-Pluto conjunction in the 11th house. So the longer you can hang out with somebody and the longer you can keep it in courtship phase, I think the better it is for you. And ultimately, You'll be able to bring that energy down into the 5th house, which is a fixed house. I mean, it's ruled by Leo. So you have the potential of having long-term relationships. I just think you need a deeper, wider base for that to happen. Now, here's the good news. Jupiter is in your 7th house, okay? So your 7th house is Gemini, which brings up its own dynamics in terms of relationship. People that have Gemini on the 7th house cusp, they can get bored in relationships sometimes. You know, they need to be mentally stimulated, and they need their partner to be multifaceted. So anybody that you're with, they've got to have more than one thing going on in their life. Like somebody who's just working would be really boring for you. Somebody who just has a 9-to-5 gig, boring. You know, you need somebody that can be intellectually stimulating, and if they're working 9-to-5 gig,
dynamic in some way.
yeah, they've got a passion on the side, or they're, you know, I mean that's Gemini on the descendant. Now with Jupiter there, theoretically, how astrology works is that you would have more opportunity for relationship with Jupiter now traveling through your 7th house. Now, Jupiter isn't quite yet in trine with your moon or Pluto, but within 3 to 4 weeks, it will be. So what you want to look at is in middle of May, end of May, when Jupiter starts to get up around between 15 and 20 degrees, that's when opportunity for relationship begins to open up for you. And I would suggest to you that it would be that you would look to your circle of friends, or if it begins during that time, try to keep it at a friend level for as long as possible. So the prospect for you to connect in relationship is really highlighted within 3 to 5 weeks. Okay?
Woo-hoo.
So that
that
bodes well for you. In terms of work, I don't know what's happening for you with work, but your big work planet in your chart, Saturn, it's in your 10th house. People that have Saturn in their 10th house, they come to their work later in life. They may go through 2 or 3 professions before they find something that they really want to discipline themselves and excel at. You've got Saturn in Virgo in your 10th house. And that can be kind of a burden, because a lot of times people who have Saturn and Virgo in the 10th house wind up having, for lack of a better term, McJobs. Okay,
What'd you say?
McJobs. You know, like a you know what a McJob is? You know, it's like a job that isn't really a job. It's like McDonald's is food that isn't really food.
Oh, just something to pay the bills.
Exactly. Yeah, because Saturn in Virgo Virgo in and of itself is a service-oriented sign. So that's part of the responsibility of Saturn in the 10th house in Virgo. And with Saturn there, ultimately, if you work at the, how should I say this? If you work at the mundane long enough, or if you work with the detail-oriented work long enough, that you would ultimately rise to a level of mastery is not the word, but being able to be managerial or have more power and control over the type of work that you do and the people that you work with. But it takes time with Saturn. Anybody that has Saturn and Virgo in the 10th house, I would ask them, or I wouldn't instruct them, but I would get them to think about, you know, things like healing. Any type of healing profession can be really, really rewarding with Saturn and Virgo in the 10th house. And that could be anything from acupuncture to massage therapy to nutrition work, anything along those lines where you can help people stay healthy, grow, and get better. That would really fit with your Saturn. The problem with your Saturn is that it squares Neptune in your chart, and then it opposes Mercury and the Sun in Pisces. So you've got a lot of Piscean energy with Neptune and Sun and Mercury kind of, you know, tweaking your Saturn. Part of you also is very artistic, and that also could manifest in Saturn and Virgo in the 10th house. People that have a strong Virgo aspect, and you do, by the way, because you also have Jupiter and Virgo and Mars in Virgo, people that have a strong Virgo aspect can be really good photographers. because photography has all these different aspects that go along with it that require a lot of detail. At least back in the old days it did. Now you have cameras that figure out half this stuff for you because of the computer chips. But
Right.
but
I am an editor.
What's that?
I am an editor, a video editor.
A video editor. So that's actually a very Virgoan. That's a Virgoan field for you, because you're using photography or film, and it's also using details. Because that's another area that I was going to suggest you look into. Now the good news is that you've got the sun going into Taurus very shortly here, and when it goes into Taurus, it moves into your 6th house. And generally speaking, whenever the sun moves into anybody's 6th house, it is a boost for them in terms of their work, in terms of their purpose. And if they've got planets up in the 10th house, which you do, you'll have a sun-moon trine, and that would be towards the end of May, probably around the 18th, 19th of May. So that's actually a really solid time for you. And yeah, so you can actually, either look for new work, take on new work, however you market yourself in that world. That's actually a very, very powerful, very positive time.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Okay.
Does anything else pop out to you, or?
Well, I could probably talk about your chart for another 45 minutes or so, but I have to move on and talk to some other people.
Well, thank you. It's been very, very informative. Oh, this is great. I have it all written down.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Camila.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. Okay, so what you just heard is an example of me doing it's a mini reading. We just took one aspect for Camila, which was love, relationship, and a little bit of work, but mostly love and relationship. Now, I do this for a living. I do full readings, and you can reach me at robertphoenix.com. That's my website, or robertphoenix@robertphoenix.com. If you're listening to this radio show, whether it's live or via the podcast, I have a special for first-time clients. My normal rate is $98 per hour, which in astrology, economics, is actually very affordable, believe it or not. However, for first-time clients, my fee is $66 for an initial 60-minute reading. So if you want a full reading, just tell me you heard this on the show today, and I'll be able to work with you for an hour for $30 off my normal price. I have to do this. This is my housekeeping. This is how I pay my bills. This is how I keep my son playing baseball and eating tacos. All right, let's move on to the next caller. Hello there.
Hi, how are you? I'm glad I turned into the show. First time listening.
Oh, hey, well, congratulations for finding us. What's your name?
I'm Linda, and I will turn on the podcast so I can hear your guest that was on, because I'd like to hear more about the scalar energy.
Oh, yeah, pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, my question is career-wise. I don't know if my house is in Saturn, but it sounds like it from the last caller. August 22nd, Brooklyn, New York, 6:15 a.m.
August 22nd, all right. And what year?
Oh, 5/3.
5/3. You have the birthday, not the year, but the birthday of my first wife. August 22nd. Is that good or bad? Nah, she was cool. I really dug her.
Yeah.
And if I had a way of getting in touch with her, we'd still be good friends. What time were you born again?
6:15 a.m.
A.m. All right. And you're born in the year of the snake, so you know this is the year of the snake, right?
No.
Oh, it is. This is your year.
Is it the year of the snake?
Yes.
Okay, so that means is that good?
Very good. If I'll tell you what, I've got a bunch of shows in the archives, and I have a show on Chinese astrology.
Okay.
Find that. That's actually a really good show. Hold on here.
Okay.
Brooklyn. Where are you? There's so many Brooklyns. Let's do this. There we go. All right. Ah, boy. Okay, so I have you as Virgo rising, and your sun is actually your Leo rising, your Virgo first house, sun in Leo right on the ascendant. That's a very, very powerful aspect for the sun. Now, you're born at the 29th degree, which is the anaretic degree. It's a tricky degree. You know, we've talked about the anaretic degree on the show quite a bit. And the thing with the anaretic degree is, well, when you reach the 29th degree, you've reached the end of the energy of the sign. And two things happen, and it's kind of ironic. The energy dissipates, so the individual wants to get to the next degree, which is, in your case, Virgo. And so that's one component of it. And you have to go back and learn the Leo lesson. You have to hang with Leo. You have to understand kind of, you know, why you incarnated as a Leo. And I saw this with my ex-wife, which is kind of interesting. I'll share this with you. This may have some, because she had the same degree. What she would do is she was classically trained as a chef in France. She had all of these fantastic credentials. She was really talented, and she always took jobs that were less than her station.
Oh, my goodness.
Is that you?
Yeah, what? It's not like I wanted to take them, but I apply for these other things, or and people say, why are you doing this? But it's like, I don't know why it's not happening for me, and I don't understand.
Right. So what she was trying to do in her anaretic sort of dysfunction was she was sublimating and subjugating her Leo sun to take on, you know, kind of more, for lack of a better term, menial, service-oriented gigs. And invariably, they never worked out. The only thing that ever worked out for her was when she took responsibility for her own life, her own energy, and her own creativity, and would start her own businesses. And then she would grow these businesses pretty well, and then she would wind up selling some of them. But one of the things that she did here where I live in Austin, this is before I got here, is that she organized one of the farmers markets here. She started the farmers market. So whenever she took positions of entrepreneurship, leadership, or authority, she excelled. And when she did otherwise, she didn't do well. And in fact, she would lose those jobs, or they would wind up in some form of calamity or distress, or just major screw up. So my advice to you, and the hard part for you is looking at your chart, you have Mercury, Mars, and Pluto. They're all in Leo. They're all in the 12th house, which means that a lot of your abilities and capabilities are kind of hidden from you at times. So you have to figure out how to tap into the 12th house. It's a hidden house. You know, Pluto and Mars, it's a wide conjunction, but they're still there. You've got to figure out how to get down and tap into, for quote, lack of a better term, your power. And we do this in the 12th house by going into a form of meditation. Now, when I say meditation, it doesn't have to be like crossing your legs and crossing your eyes. That would be some people. Other people, it doesn't. Meditation is the thing that takes you out of your everyday entrainment and allows you to free up your consciousness so you have a more direct connection with your soul through inspiration and through the impulses that come to you while you're having those moments. So for you, it would be about, in some way, shape, or form, either creativity or physicality, because Mars is a really integral planet in your 12th house. So in order for you to get ideas, in order for you to be inspired, in order for you to find your confidence, in order for you to tap into your ability to plan and create a future, which is your Mercury-Mars conjunction, you've got to get out of your head. So that's your kind of your exercise. That's your yoga, so to speak. And once you do that, then you can begin to stay in touch with the part of who you are, the Linda who you are that exists beneath the behind the veil. And then what you want to do is you want to bring that energy and bring those thoughts and bring that inspiration and bring that fixed focus out and have it tap into your sun. And then with your sun on the ascendant, that's a very powerful ascendant. So you have got to lead. You have got to take charge of something in your life which allows you to get out of this cycle of anaretic oppression, which is you're taking jobs that are really less than your station in life. So I guess what I'm saying, Linda, is that at some point you're going to need to take a risk. And that risk is really going to be about you stepping out and saying, I am in charge of this. I am going to do this. I am going to be the head of this, whatever that thing is. And it doesn't mean you have to have, $15,000 to start your own hot dog cart, down in Times Square, or whatever that is. But it's something along those lines, because you'll never get out of this cycle unless you take full responsibility for your Leo sun on the ascendant at the anaretic degree. And then once you do, then everything changes and everything shifts. Now, you have some really nice aspects with Jupiter moving through your 10th house. And you have Jupiter in Gemini at 22 degrees. So you're going to have a Jupiter return coming up here shortly within the next few weeks. When you have a Jupiter return in Gemini in the 10th house, what you want to do, if you want to break out of your mold, is you need to work with somebody. You need to have somebody who either believes in you or wants to work with you on some level, but would want you to be the person in charge or the person leading the project or running the show. The key with Jupiter in Gemini in the 10th house is networking. Networking. So between now and the next 3 weeks, you need to network, especially if you have a good idea, because there's somebody out there that would be receptive to a good idea from you, whatever that idea is. So my prescription, my astrological prescription for you of the day would be to get out of your head, get into your body, work out, yoga, creativity, and allow the inspiration and the pattern to emerge from your 12th house. Who these people are, what kind of networking you need to do, what idea are you sitting on or have been sitting on or you gave up on. And then that's where you need to focus, because with Jupiter cruising through Gemini in your 10th house, you don't want to lose that moment in time, because your Jupiter sextiles Pluto and it trines both Saturn and Neptune down in your 3rd house. So the next 3 weeks, I think, are important. So you want to be confident. You want to look good. Get your hair done, because the Sun and Leo on the ascendant, hair is really important. You want to be ready to meet somebody who's ready to meet you. That's my prescription for you.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. Thank you. Wow.
Okay.
Wow. That gives me a real good understanding. I don't know astrology. I don't know that science like that, but you broke it down where I can understand and digest, and I need to act on it, because I didn't understand why I kept going around in this circle. Everybody said, oh, you're so talented, you saw this, you saw that. I'm like, so why isn't it happening for me? I'll go somewhere and, the jealousy rises because, I do it well and da-da-da, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. I just want to be left alone, and it seems like it doesn't work out that way.
No, it's not going to, because you're also the 22 is a master number, so you're just going to have to own you're just going to have to own your power here. You're going to have to own how tremendous you are, okay, and without apology. That doesn't mean you're going to be arrogant or conceited.
Right.
If people don't like you or they're threatened by you, they're not going to be your friends anyway.
Right. I know that because they try to come with a little game, and I'm like, what? You know, like, please with that. And they can't, if they can manipulate, they're fine. But if they can't, then they don't want to be bothered with you because they can't pull the strings.
Yeah, you just be honest with them and say, look, I don't appreciate, where this is coming from. I'm just living my life with an open heart. And if you can too, fine, we'll be friends. And if not, then, go somewhere else.
Right. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, my goodness. Thank you.
All right, Linda. Thank you for calling in.
Much gratitude. Thank you.
Don't be a stranger. All right. That was Linda. Oh, isn't that lovely? Isn't that sound in the background lovely? Yes, they're doing major repairs here at the world headquarters of Free Association Radio. Let's go to the 5 and dime. Maybe this is Camille. Let's find out.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, you're correct. It is Camille.
Hey. What's going on, Camille?
The sun is shining and I feel good. That's what's going on.
I was thinking about you today.
Oh, where were you?
I was on my way to the laundry room to drop off my clothes, and I was thinking about you.
Awesome. All righty. Well, you must have reached me because I saw the notification and I was like, okay, let me just call in to get him to confirm something for me. So.
All right. So let's. This is Camille, people, if you don't know that. And Camille debuted on my show about 2 years. How old is?
Yeah. She is 16 months old. So I called you like a few weeks before that, but I must have called you like early January or something of 2011. No, 2012.
Right. And you had called in once before.
Yes.
And then when you called in again, you told us about how one day you were riding a bike, and then a few hours later you had a baby.
I was in the hospital. Oh yes.
Just mind blowing how that occurred. Camille, what are your coordinates again?
Okay, I am July 13th, 1976.
Okay.
At 6:18 p.m. in West Los Angeles, California.
6:18 p.m.
Yes.
Okay.
In L.A.
L.A. All right, hold on. Here we go. All right.
Okay.
All right. What do you want me to confirm?
Okay. So in 2006, I went to home hypnotherapy, and I became a certified hypnotherapist. And unfortunately, as I was completing my training, the man that I had been seeing for 2+ years actually committed suicide.
Right.
And totally, I never went back to it, and then I ended up moving to Alameda and thought I would do so many other things. In a roundabout way, I'm going back to hypnosis.
Okay.
I am going back to hypnosis, and just what's going on with the energies, with career. Like I think
it's a good idea. Can I just stop you right there? I think it's a good idea because, you have Mars and Virgo.
Yeah.
And I have it here in the 8th house. And that is, the 8th house is ruled by Scorpio, and Scorpio is related to mesmerism.
Oh, I didn't know that. All right, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I have Scorpio rising. People tell me I'm mesmerizing all the time, so it must work. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
But no, Scorpio is related to mesmerism, right? So mesmerism is hypnosis. You've got Mars and Virgo, which is about helping people.
Right.
Okay, all right, so that's one part of the equation. If we just draw a brief line just across to the 10th house.
Yeah.
And that's where you have Uranus in the true node.
Yeah, I know that.
And those are in Scorpio, right? So what are we talking about? Mesmerism. So you've got a Mars-Uranus trine, and then you also have the Mars true node trine. And what's happening is that Saturn had been in your 10th house going through all that Libra. It's going to go back into your 10th house now, and it's going to hit your true node again because Saturn goes back to 4 degrees. Well, it's just going to be on the other side of your true node. It goes to, your true node is, hold on, your true node is at 9, so it goes on to the other side of your true node and sits between Uranus and your true node, and that happens this summer. So it's about remembering, who you are and remembering what you came here to do. I think the hypnosis thing is a good thing for you.
Yeah, me too. And it must have been because I heard you mention a little bit of numerology, so you must know it. So 2006 was my 1 year, and now I'm in my 8 years. So, all those seeds I planted, finally, after I went through a series of traumas, and it just delayed or derailed. And it occurred to me, hey, wait a minute, why aren't I doing this? And after a course of time, I figured out a niche. I'd like to work with women in transition and also athletes. Also athletes that's focus and concentration, control. I would really love to work with athletes.
Well, I think that's interesting because you have Neptune and Sag in the 12th house. And that's linking up with Saturn again in your 8th, right? And so that's, bringing that Neptunian energy, Sagittarius inspiration, unlocking that, the form for that, which would be Saturn at the beginning of the 8th. And both of those, by the way, also trine Pluto. So you've got a Saturn-Pluto trine, and bringing that up into the 9th house, which represents philosophy and, to some extent, systemization. And that Pluto in your 9th house is only 5 degrees off of your midheaven, which is very, very powerful. So you are a very transformational personality. So I think that's great. Women in transition, yeah, I could see that. You've got Moon in Aquarius down in the 2nd house. So that's also unusual birth, right? Unusual motherhood. So that would actually fit. So yeah. All right, I'm in. I co-sign.
Oh, good, awesome. Yeah, I mean, you're like you are an amazing astrologer. So yeah, it's great too. It's been very wonderful brainstorming with you over the course of time.
Well, you've got a special place in this show for what you shared with us, and I just think you're a really good person.
Oh, thanks.
Besides what you shared with us. So wish you all the best, and keep going.
Thank you.
Don't give up, and know that people love you, okay?
Oh, thank you very much.
All right. Take care,
Okay.
Camille. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
That was the second Camille on the show today, wasn't it? Let's travel all the way around the world, shall we? Let's drop into the desert oases of Jordan and let us talk to Athena's mind.
Hi, Robert. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm so good. So glad to catch your show again.
Yeah, it's been a while. You're doing a little snap, crackle, and pop there, but we'll try to get through this.
Uh-oh. Sorry. Okay. You will pull up my chart. Yeah, Athena, or what's up? May 19th, 1968.
May 19th, 1968. Okay.
1:12 a.m.
Okay, we're going to have to go fast because I only got 15 minutes left and the lines are loaded. May 19th. All right, and what year was that again?
1968.
68.
Uh-huh.
And what time?
1:12 a.m.
Okay. And where were you born?
Salt Lake City, Utah.
Right. Salt Lake City. Salt Lake.
Okay, my question is specific.
All right.
You said I had a yod or out of yod?
A yod.
A yod. What's that triangle that's pointing to?
You don't have a classic. You do not have a classic yod.
Okay.
You have almost like half a yod. Which would be a yo.
Well, I was wondering if it had what that influence is on the lunar eclipse this month. Is there anything
on the lunar eclipse for you?
Yeah.
The lunar eclipse is right on the. Let's see. It's right at the edge of Libra and almost there in Scorpio. So that would be right on your 8th house, 9th house cusp. So from a cusp perspective, I think it would have some impact on where you live because you live abroad, and you might be re-examining your relationship with where you live.
Okay.
That's how I would see that. 24, yeah, because it's coming out of the 8th and right there at the beginning of the 9th. So you could also be dealing with people around you in this this place that you're living that might be a little disturbing. You know, it might be shocking on some level.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's Scorpio, and Scorpio is about the revelation of secrets, right? That it's coming out of your 8th and into your 9th. So there's something that's revealed, but it has to do with where you are as a foreigner in a quote-unquote distant land and how it might relate to where you want to either stay or go from that point.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Happy show.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. I know you have a lot of other people, and that was my question, so I really appreciate it.
You're easy. Should I just put you back on hold so you can listen?
Yeah, please.
All right. Thank you. See ya.
Bye. Thanks.
I wanted to ask her about Mitt Romney's wife. She's related to Mitt Romney. We didn't talk about that. I mean, we have in other shows. But a lot of you know who well aware of one is Ed Sheeran. He says that Mitt Romney's wife is Debbie Harry. I wanted to ask her about that because she actually knows Mitt Romney's wife. I wonder if she's ever heard Mitt Romney's wife do the rap breakdown from Rapture by Debbie Harry, just spontaneously. All right, let's bring on Nico, Nakota Wayshower. Let's bring on Nakota Wayshower.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Can
you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, my date of birth is the 13th of June, 1964.
Okay. Hold on a second now. I can't do this without asking where you're calling from.
UK.
UK. Okay. All right. And all right. What are your dates again?
13th of June, 1964.
13th of June, 1964. All right. And what time?
7:07 in the morning.
7:07 in the morning. Okay. I just love that English accent. All right. What? Okay. And where was this?
High Wycombe, England.
Is that W-Y? That kind of Wycombe?
W-Y-C-O-M-B-E.
Aren't you impressed that an American would know that?
Yes, I am actually. It's a little village.
Yeah, we're not all completely culturally deprived here. It was funny. I gotta say this. I watched this documentary on Britpop a couple nights ago, and it was all about the rise of Blur and Oasis and those bands. And one of the journalists, it might have been John Savage, he said, "Well, Americans have a lot of confidence, but they don't have much talent."
Oh, bless. Oh, okay.
All right, I got
don't
you
think
right here.
that.
All right, where do you want to go?
Career, please.
Career. Okay. All right. So, you, according to my chart, you've got Chiron on your midheaven in Pisces, and that's a tricky aspect for career, because Chiron is the wounded healer, and Pisces is this very sort of diaphanous, nebulous, spiritual energy. And for me, as it's coming out of the ninth house, Chiron and Pisces represents the seeker. And it represents the spiritual seeker more than anything. And you're dealing with an energy here as it tries to move into the 10th house via the midheaven that somehow incorporates spirituality as a career path. And the world doesn't always reward that at times.
Yeah.
It can, but it doesn't always do that. Now, the good news is you're about ready to go through your Chiron return, which is a very important aspect in the evolution of the individual and their chart. And let me just find out, let me just get a quick look here when that's going to occur for you. Because when you go through your Chiron return and where it's positioned in your chart, you will face in some ways where you are, what you're doing, what is not spiritually rewarding about it. And then at that point, you will do one of two things. You will either completely surrender, which is usually the best strategy for a Pisces, or you will shake off the chains and you will say, I don't give a damn anymore. I'm going to do this. I don't care what anybody says. I'm not going to be ashamed. I'm not going to be censored. This is who I am. This is what I believe in. This is my life. And I don't even care if I would like to make some money, but I'm going to do this because this is my spiritual calling. And that would be, in a lot of ways, the genesis of your Chiron return. And the two aspects may not be mutually exclusive, because when you do that, you have to surrender anyway. You know, all right, so let me look at where Chiron is at 15 degrees. You're going to be going through this a year from now, in March. That's when a lot of the big energy takes place. So it would be almost a year from today, backdated a few degrees. Your Chiron is at 15 degrees in March of 2014. Let's just see where it is currently. I think it's around 12 right now. Let's just find out. So we're April 10th. Yeah, so it's at 11 degrees. So it's close. It's close to your Chiron, but it's not quite there. It does get to 13 degrees in July. But I'm going to tell you, everybody that I've spoken with and in my own life, the Chiron return has been really important, extremely important. One of my clients went through her Chiron return, and what she decided to do, she'd retired. And she's not old. She's, our age. In fact, I think she's born, I'm 60, you're 64. I think she's 63. And what she decided to do was take on a little more work, even though she was retired, so she could really plunge very deeply into her spiritual life and go and take classes and study astrology at a very high and esoteric level, with the idea that she would craft something out of it and have either a practice or a book or something that would allow her to take all this knowledge and then put it together. For you, that's actually really, I think, essential, because when we go down into the opposite of your ninth house, you have the Pluto-Uranus conjunction, which is a large part of your generation from like 1960, I think it's like 1962 to like 1969. The third house is about communication, and it's about writing, and it's about sharing information. So the two of these aspects have to work together. You know, you have to be able to have the spiritual peak experience, the spiritual knowledge, the gnosis, but you also have to be able to share and communicate it, and it also has to be practical because your third house is Virgo. So I think in terms of career, the Chiron return is going to be really, really important for you. Now, you've already got Uranus in your 10th house, and it's in Aries. So this automatically would have you experience some kind of radical reorientation about what you're doing with your energy and what you're doing with your life, because that's the 10th house. And Uranus is going to be in your 10th house for another 5 years. And that's good because you get to be able to be used to that energy. You get used to the energy. But Uranus in Aries in the 10th house is a maverick. So you're gonna have to use that energy to put yourself out there, and put yourself out there in kind of unconventional ways. The biggest challenge for you is your 12th house, because that's where your sun is at 22 degrees Gemini. Your true node is in the 12th house, and your Venus is in the 12th house. So you're a really 12th house character, which is what? The 12th house is Pisces. So we have another overlay of Pisces in your chart and in your blueprint. So you got to get that energy. You got to get that Piscean energy, that 12th house energy, out of the 12th. You're a communicator. You're Gemini. You need to be able to communicate and share ideas with people. You've got the Jupiter return coming, which is good, right? The Jupiter return will happen in about 3 weeks, and it's going to motivate you from a very deep level to figure out a way to get this information out there. Whatever it is that you're holding on to, whatever all this spiritual information you've accrued, the process begins for you in 3 weeks. Ultimately, what I really like is when Jupiter crosses your true node in the second house. True node in the second house, which is in Cancer, is a really, really healing element. Very healing element. So you're a healer. You're a healer. That's what you do. And because your second house is conjunct Venus in Cancer, you have a lot of compassion. I mean, even though you're a Gemini, you have a great deal of compassion. And Saturn over there in the ninth house trines your Venus and your true node. So you, in terms of career, you've got a difficult chart. I'm not gonna try to sugarcoat this, but you came into this lifetime to somehow figure out how you're going to use your spiritual knowledge and your healing energy to make it work for you, to turn it into something that not only supports you, but gives you the courage to pursue it, to go past your fear. I think this is what your chart is about. And when Jupiter hits 20 degrees and begins to conjunct your ascendant, I feel like this is a major breakthrough for you, because you, at that point in time, this is not long, this is in October, by the way, this is when Jupiter's gone through your 12th house and some inner work is taking place. And then you're going to be able to be more fully present in this kind of Cancerian healing energy, because Jupiter is going to cross your true node. And this is going to happen in June. You need to pay attention to your dreams. You need to pay attention to any kinds of visionary states. And you certainly need to pay attention to meetings with people that seem out of the ordinary or potently synchronistic. Because those relationships, those connections, those people are going to see you at that time. They're going to see you clearly. Part of your challenge is being seen. And when Jupiter comes out of your 12th house after having this arc and touching your true note and touching your Venus, there's a part of you that you're able to bring out as well. It's kind of like going to the bottom of the ocean and finding buried treasure down there and sending a diving team and bringing some pearls back to the surface, or bringing some sunken treasure back to the surface. That's what's going on for you right now. In October, the culmination of that begins to take place. The surfacing takes place, and Jupiter will be in your first house. You have a very small first house based on the unequal chart system. So it won't be in your first house for very long, but it will be in your first house. And then ultimately in 2014, you're going to have a Jupiter-Moon conjunction. And I like that conjunction for you because it reaffirms for you on a lot of levels who you are. Leo Moon in the first house is very warm. It's very loving. It's very feminine. It's quote-unquote goddess energy, if you want to use those terms. But it's really ripe and very fertile. And your confidence, I feel, gets a real boost with this Jupiter-Moon conjunction. But it all starts now. It all starts now with Jupiter sweeping through your 12th. And you're going to have Sun conjuncting your Jupiter in May. That's always a pretty good conjunction, especially when it's in Taurus. So get a little boost with your finances in May with the Sun-Jupiter conjunction. But I think the big ticket item for you is really this Chiron return and finally going through it and pushing through it and unapologetically saying, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is where I'm going forward with it, and then surrendering it and giving up to God. So that's what I see.
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for calling into the show, and don't be a stranger, okay?
No, I most certainly will be coming back. I promise you that.
Okay. Take good care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, so if you're listening to this now, you're either waiting for me to read your chart or you're listening on the stream. People in the chat room and people that are listening live, I apologize. We've run out of time, but I'm just going to burn through these charts because people have been holding for a long time. So let's go to the 678. Hello there. Hello. Oh, you hold all that time and you're not there. Okay. Let's go to the 518. Hello there.
No, you read me. I was just listening to the show.
Oh, okay, great. So then I'm done. All right. Back and hold. All right, so that's it. We've reached the end of the tape loop. It is now spinning into infinity. The sounds of my voice are now somewhere out there in the scalar spectrum, reaching the far shores of Alpha Centauri, the Pleiades, Alcyone, the great central sun. And with that, we've reached the end of the show. Join me on Friday on the 10-minute Man Called Clay. You've been listening to Navigating the Astrological Matrix. I'd like to thank Tom Paladino for being my guest today and learning more about scalar energy. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix, and I'll see you on Friday. And here's our good friend from 1976 at a conference in Nice, France, talking about the holographic reality that we all inhabit, Philip K. Dick. See you on Friday.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.